We are in conversation with Dr. Arvind Panagariya, the Vice Chairman of the NITI Aayog. So appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18, and thank you very much for your time. Let me start by asking you about the general mood as far as the economy is concerned. The Prime Minister held a mega meeting. You were part of that meeting along with the Reserve Bank Governor, along with the Prime Minister's cabinet colleagues. In attendance was the who's who of India Inc. What is the sum and substance at the end of that mega meeting? I understand that several concerns or suggestions were made by industry in terms of what to do to kickstart growth. But are there any real outcomes expected post that? What should one expect?
No, I think it was a very positive discussion, and generally the industry and the economists who were present were very optimistic, and lots of suggestions got made. So I shall not talk about what the suggestions were,
okay.
but lots of good suggestions.
You won't talk about the suggestions, but let me bring on the table, I believe, what was one of the key concerns that was raised, and that was the high cost of capital. On the 28th of August, you have said that the Reserve Bank should be more aggressive when it comes to cutting rates, and they should in fact go as high as a 50 to 100 basis point rate cut. In that meeting as well, of course, polite clamour for a rate cut was made in front of the RBI governor. We have the credit policy now coming up on the 29th of September. Do you believe the time is ripe for a deeper rate cut?
Well, I have said this before, and those were not quite my words, that the RBI should be more aggressive. Those are your words. But in the substance, I have said this, that we need a rate cut of 50 to 100 basis points. I think time is right.
Do you believe that whether or not the Fed actually lifts off in September, which is the expectation, is actually still split on whether we will see the Fed move in September or perhaps push it now to December? Do you believe that that could weigh on the RBI governor's mind ahead of the credit policy?
Yeah. Well, my view has been that, look, you know, the case for cutting the rate is so strong, at least, you know, from what I understand, that even if the Fed actually raises the interest rate, in any case it's going to be baby steps. It's not going to be a mega increase in interest rate by the Fed. But whatever the Fed does, I think we are ripe for you know, a rate cut of maybe, say, 50 basis points.
If there is no rate cut of 52 basis points, if it is 25 basis points, do you think that will really help change sentiment, turn things around?
Well, the direction is right. So, you know, direction would be right, and added to the past 75 basis points reduction, it will add up to a percentage point. And maybe this will then also begin the process of the pass-through with a little stronger effect. Currently the pass-through has been, from what I understand, about 30 basis points or so out of 75. So, you know, there is room also for the interest rate to fall through the pass-through.
You know, the government continues to maintain that it's optimistic about growth picking up in the second half of the year. But do you believe that the target set out by both the budget as well as the economic survey of an 8.4% kind of growth number for this particular financial year is under threat, given what we've seen as far as the latest GDP print is concerned?
One, you know, we still need to wait. These are preliminary figures for the GDP first quarter also. They may get revised upward. There is a possibility. And I would not write off the prospects for getting past 8% growth rate. We have had quarters when we have grown 10%, 9%. So.
But the monsoon picture is looking bleak, which will obviously impact agriculture. We're not really seeing high-frequency data suggest any kind of big up move as far as sales are concerned. Corporate earnings continue to look muted at this point in time. What gives you the confidence that we're going to see such a sharp pickup in the second half to be able to get to that 8.5% number?
Yeah, I mean, there are 3 more quarters left, and as I said, the first quarter may itself actually turn out to be higher than what it is. So pickup required probably, you know, maximally is 1% if we go by the current first quarter figures in one of the 3 quarters. So the pickup required is, you know, is not huge when I spread it over the 3 quarters. I think the investor sentiment is turning around, and the message that the government is actually moving is passing through.
Okay, let me ask you about issues that specifically the NITI Aayog is looking at, and land of course is the big one, because that meeting where apparently the chief ministers of Maharashtra and Punjab said that state government should be more empowered to decide what to do as far as the Land Acquisition Act is concerned was decided here at the NITI Aayog's meeting. What should be the road ahead? Because now we've gone back to the 2013 Land Act. The government has not reformulated the ordinance. But given the fact that 2013 has certain benchmarks as far as compensation, as social impact assessment, etc. is concerned, how easy is it going to be for state governments to deviate from the central law?
So, you know, a very well kept secret has been that the state of Tamil Nadu has a different act or an amended act in place since January 5, 2015. So it's been almost 7 to 8 months. Very few people knew about it. But Tamil Nadu has in fact amended the 2013 Act as it applies to their state. What they have done is they have introduced a new schedule within the legislation, and in that schedule they can list certain state legislations which then are exempt. Once those legislations get listed in this schedule called fifth schedule, those legislations become exempt from the 2013 Act.
So then you don't actually need to come back to the President, seek presidential assent or anything. You're saying Tamil Nadu has already deviated from the Central Act and made more exemptions than that are provided under the Central Act.
Correct. So that Act required presidential consent, which has been given.
Okay.
Now, for the future, Tamil Nadu does not have to come back to the central government, because they can add to the list of acts that are listed in the fifth schedule, or they can subtract from it.
Okay.
Other states could follow the same strategy. They too will have to come to the central government for the presidential assent. But my own speculation is that once the assent has been given to Tamil Nadu, to one state, I don't think the central government is going to deny that same thing to the other states.
Have you sort of in the process of the conversation and the consultations that took place, are states like Maharashtra and Punjab now close to moving to seek presidential assent to deviate from the Central Act?
So certainly I have passed on that advice to the Maharashtra Chief Minister. And as far as I understand, he has even made a public statement that he was going to actually follow that route. But remember that first he has to pass it in the Maharashtra Assembly, and then after it has been passed by the Maharashtra Assembly, then it comes for the presidential consent. I've also suggested the same to the Chief Minister of Rajasthan, so I suspect that they would be working on it as well.
Okay, so Maharashtra and Rajasthan are likely to go the Tamil Nadu route and get the amendments moved in their own assemblies and then seek presidential assent.
That's my hope.
Okay. Let me ask you this, sir. If it was this plain and simple that state governments could deviate from the central law, why was the need then to make 2013 into this draconian sort of act and then, re-promulgate an ordinance 3 times around before you decided, or the government decided to back down on it?
No, remember that, I was one of these very strong advocates even before I came to the NITI Aayog that the Land Acquisition Act 2013 was a bit draconian for the simple reason that in some of the very important cases where public purpose is actually at stake, the acquisition would take almost 4 to 5 years. So I had advocated myself reforming the Act. I had also advocated actually reforming the Act centrally, because one state at a time is a longer process.
That's right.
And so the Prime Minister really did want to move faster, clearly. And at the time, I think they introduced it, perhaps the sense was that there would be votes that,
but political reality finally caught up.
No, look, at the time that initial consultations were done in June 2014, many on the Congress side, or generally the opposition chief ministers, had also pitched in that they had difficulty with this act and they'd like to see it amended. So it's not as if the government moved without consultation with the opposition parties, but it's simply that the opposition parties clearly changed their minds later on and then they dug their heels in.
Okay, let me ask you about another issue which now looks like it will be only taken up in the winter session of Parliament because the government has prorogued the monsoon session, so no special session to try and push the GST bills through. How much of a setback is it, and do you believe April 1, 2016 is still a possibility?
Well, in politics, you can never say that anything is not over. Things can change, turn around, and so I'll not rule it out as a possibility. But on the other hand, if it delays some, it is okay, because ultimately, at least my view has been that GST is a process. Remember, you started on this path more than 10 years ago. And the original proposals perhaps even go farther back than 10 years. So it is a process, and along the way setbacks may happen, and it's a process that actually requires a constitutional amendment. It requires a new legislation, and it requires consent of 29 states, central government, so one knows that there can be hiccups. But on the other hand, for this present government, it has been only 15 months, and that's pretty good progress. I think it still looks well within our grasp. So if not in April, maybe 6 months later it will be implemented.
Speaking of reforms, I had a conversation with you before you moved to Delhi in the US, and one of the big things that was on your agenda was labor reforms, or pushing labor reforms forward. Are you disappointed with the pace of change that we've seen specifically on labor reforms? I mean, yes, individual states and perhaps the state of Rajasthan have moved on that, but we haven't really seen much action as far as the centre is concerned.
No. So, as you know, or you should know that I am in this for a long haul, so nothing surprises me or nothing disappoints me. I think we have to maintain our optimism. We have to expect to move forward, and as long as forward movement is being made,
so what is your recommendation on labour today?
I'll tell you also, it's not just Rajasthan. After Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh has followed suit. Actually, Madhya Pradesh has gone a little farther than Rajasthan did in the first go. I mean, Rajasthan made big jumps, but Madhya Pradesh took advantage of that, and it has gone a little farther. Gujarat actually is on the way also. Okay. They have made some very interesting changes, very much some of the changes that I'm now recommending also to the other states.
Could you articulate for us what would be the key
I will tell you, but those changes are still, the presidential assent is still required. Okay. But one of the important changes Gujarat made was that within the special economic zones and the industrial zones, etc., or manufacturing zones, what they have done is that they would permit a company of any size. Rajasthan limits it to 300 now. The Industrial Dispute Act original limit is 100, but Gujarat has said that in the special economic zones and the manufacturing zones, companies of any size would be allowed to lay off workers, provided they pay them 60 days of wage for each year worked. Okay. So I think that's really, at least within these special zones, that is a.
But is this something that you're pushing through the NITI Aayog?
No.
Pushing the centre through the NITI Aayog?
When I meet the chief ministers or state officials, I certainly make them aware of what is happening. So most surely, very recently, one of the senior officials from Telangana visited, and I then passed on to them what Gujarat had done, and suggested that they may wish to look at what Gujarat has done.